All right. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you for joining us for our CSCB coffee hour this morning. Today, we are joined by Michael, who is the Habitat Partnership Program Manager, and Kimberly, who's the Administrative Assistant for HPP. And they'll be going over the program, what it is, how conservation districts can be involved, expectations within the program, and what some project ideas are. And so they said that they're okay with answering questions as we go. So feel free to drop them in the chat or just unmute yourself and kind of pitch in. And we can definitely get to those questions as we go. And then, of course, we'll have time for a Q&A at the end as well. And so with that said, Michael, Kimberly, thank you for joining us this morning, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you for having us, Kayla. We're excited to share this information and hopefully get some awareness out there for HPP. As she mentioned, I'm Kimberly Berscheid. I'm based out of Colorado Springs. So I'm the administrative assistant for the committees on the Northeast and Southeast region. We have two other admins, Northwest and Southwest, that also work for HPP. So depending on where you're at in the state, it would depend on who you contact. And then, of course, Michael is based out of the Grand Junction office. He is our manager. So we're happy to be here.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for letting us be here as well. Thank you, Dustin Shiflett, for making this opportunity available to us. It's one of our efforts we do is networking and providing this information and growing our program, making it relevant across the state. And this is going to hit all those boxes, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So yeah, we do not want this to be formal. We want any kind of conversation that needs to come up to just happen. This is more about you receiving the information that is needed to you and is applicable to you. That's foremost. If our presentation needs to derail and go down a different direction, we're willing to do that for you guys. But Kimberly has done a great job putting together a presentation that'll just kind of guide the conversation and the information. And yeah, we'll let her get started with that, if that's all right.
Yeah, but we'll. All right, everyone can see that okay?
Yes, we can. Looks good.
Great. All right, yeah, so this is just a kind of an overview of HPP. As Michael said, it's not too in-depth, but I wanted to just hit the top points. So I will go through these. So the purpose of HPP is to reduce wildlife conflicts, particularly associated with forage and fences. We also work with CPW to meet management objectives, enhance migratory corridors, and support conservation efforts on private lands. So we're primarily aimed at agricultural operators and focus on problems and objectives for deer, elk, pronghorn, and moose.
Can I kind of go through some of those a little more specifically, Kim? Is that right at this point?
Yeah. So basically what I put in here, so the funding portion of it is important because we receive 5% of the deer, elk, pronghorn, and moose license revenue in the committee areas for the license sales. So that's important to remember because we focus in on those species specifically when we are looking at projects. And this money does come from sports persons dollars, so we do work in locations where hunting is allowed and encouraged. It's not a requirement all the time, but it is something that we prefer just based on where this money is coming from. So we have committees throughout the state. Obviously they're focused more on the western slope overall, but we have expanded our ability to work outside of these committee boundaries. So we are allowed to fund projects that don't fall within these specific areas, and those would go through Michael directly. That was part of our funding authorization in 2022. So that was a good deal to allow us to work outside of those restrictions. Do you have anything to add there, Michael?
I might, on slide 2 there, I might go through some of the specifics of those purposes just to manage some of the expectations.
Yeah.
Go back one more. There it is. Yeah, so I think just point number one that she's making there, to reduce wildlife conflicts, particularly those associated with forage and fences. We are tasked statutorily with helping reduce those game damage claims that come in. There's no way to put that on a spreadsheet to measure our success level. You can't measure something that's not there. So conflict and reduction. I think a major way to do that is to improve relationships with the agricultural community and CPW. So we do try to send a lot of those projects through our local staff. It helps enhance the relationship building opportunities for our local staff with our local operators. And that's kind of what I think the basis of the program is. Two, helping Colorado Parks and Wildlife meet their game management objectives. Management is not solely based on biology. It's not solely based on politics. There's also a social component. Our private land operators' willingness to tolerate critters on their property. Again, you can't measure that. You know when it's not there. That's when the conflicts go up through the roof. So helping manage the population objectives. If sportsmen entirely had their way, we would have obviously more animals on the landscape. But there's a balance to be had. If agriculture producers don't find that we're in balance, we're going to have increased conflict. I hope that makes sense, that we're helping achieve our conflict management through wildlife management as well. Third point there, enhancing migratory corridors. If you've noticed, there's a lot of fences going up on highways, and that's going to make major changes in some situations of where those big game animals are able to migrate. And if we can see that there's an opportunity to help ensure that there's an intact migratory corridor, that's again why we would be involved. And then supporting conservation efforts on private land. We don't really define that. That's really broadly described here, because we're still determining what does that mean. What are the efforts that are needed on private lands? And so I'm really, I guess, encouraged by the statute the way it was written, that it doesn't really give us a whole lot of guidelines. We can create those ourselves. And so as conditions change, as needs change, we're able to meet them within reason. And that puts a lot of I guess responsibility on our committees to make those determinations of what's appropriate specifically in their area. But I think conservation districts can help kind of define, what does this mean? What are the conservation efforts that are needed on private land? So maybe think about that as we continue with our presentation here. And nobody's speaking up with questions, so please break the ice, somebody, and do that if needed. But go ahead, Kim, anything to add, or did I derail you too much?
Nope, that's fine. Thank you. So we'll just go through here. Boundaries. So our project types, we have kind of a broad range, but we also have some specifics that we look to do. So the habitat improvement, fence improvement or repair, game damage issues, information and education, research and monitoring, and we also work with conservation easements. So we do have a pretty big variety of what we can work with, and that's what we do pride ourselves with in HPP, is that we don't have a lot of the red tape that we have when you think of government purchasing and those types of things. So we work on all different types of projects. Fence improvement or repair has been a big one for us. We have worked to reestablish fencing and remove old fences that wildlife get caught up in. We work within the wildlife friendly fence guidelines to allow for spacing of the wires so that pronghorn can go underneath. The deer and elk can see the top wires so they can clear it. It helps to reduce those damages in the future, and also to save them from any entanglements or any problems they may have in that. Some things that we don't do, we do not work with exclusionary fencing or predator conflicts. So if you have a garden area that the deer are getting into and you just want to close that off, that's not something that HPP would participate in. So those are the two main things that we will not work with, and we just can't. So any questions on projects? So I did provide some photos here just to give you an idea of what we've been doing. We put in a solar pump in the South Park HPP area, which will help to provide water to the livestock and the wildlife in that area. Turned out to be a really nice project. We try to protect those, obviously, so they did the fencing around it. Just thought that was a good example. We also have, oops, sorry, that didn't come through in time. So we did a fence project down in the San Luis Valley. There's a rather large elk herd down there that just demolishes the fences for them. So this was a before, just to show what it looked like. And then the after, we have a nice clean line with that high visibility top wire that really does help for those animals to clear that without doing the damage to it or going straight through it. Here's a Vince base station that we did down in the Republican Rivers area. We have started working on that type of operation with cattle. This also helps to remove that fencing and create less boundary for those migratory corridors. So that's been an interesting, neat new thing that we've been dealing with here with HPP. For our funding partnerships, we look for a 50-50 split. So we do want to see contributors in that. We're not here to just fund 100%. We can do a materials and labor split. We do a lot of in-kind, so any labor that you provide, it has a value, and that can be attributed into the project totals. Looks like we have a chat. We can read that in a second. So here's another project that we did down in on the eastern slope. This was a good one that had a lot of different portions to it. So we put in a water line to get a water source. They also put in some habitat, some forage trees for cover. So that was a really well-rounded project that is going to be very valuable. This was just outside of Burlington. So for our project applications, we have all of our information on our website under the HPP. All of our meetings are public meetings, so anyone is invited to join us and share any information they have on that. We ask that you contact your local district wildlife managers. We do like to see their support, and often they have a lot of good advice and tidbits to add to these habitat projects and what they want to see and what will work and what won't work. Again, and then you would submit project applications to your administrative assistant, or if you're outside of those boundaries, they would go to Michael's assistant, Terry. So because we are an open meeting, we have to post our agenda 7 days in advance. So if you see a meeting posted on the website and you're interested in putting a project together, just remember we have to have that 7 days prior in order to properly notice it according to the open meeting laws. So any questions on that? All right. So I provided our contact information. I know that Kayla will also do the same, and I'll turn it over to Michael to add any other information that he'd like to.
Yeah, you probably made it clear, but just in case it didn't make sense, you don't have to have a project application to join us on one of our meetings. If you just want to attend as a I don't know, if you just want to audit one of the meetings, you can sure show up and contribute. There's a round table at the end of each meeting. You can ask questions, or we would value that and hope that you would feel welcome to come to any of those meetings across the state. There are a couple questions in the chat, if this is a good time to go into that. Who is M. Hudson? I don't know this person, but they said, "This is great. I'm bummed out not to have known about you until now." Well, this is great. Thank you for that. We now know you. Question: do you have staff to attend the occasional Conservation District Board meeting, Watershed Association meeting, and can you have a table at our December CICD annual meeting, Colorado Springs? Yeah, I think if now that you know who we are and we know who you are, then let's make those arrangements. And if at all possible, we would attend any and all of those as it fits into our schedules. And yeah, that's wonderful. So please reach out to Kim or I after this meeting. And then I think this is the same person. It's Mariah. Mariah asked, do you have a suggestion for how to contact our local office? I've been unable to get much past the woman that answers the phone there in Colorado Springs. So yeah, I think if you just ask specifically for Kim, if you're wanting to speak about issues right down there in Colorado Springs, that would be the best way to do that. Kim, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. You can also, if you're looking to get a hold of your district wildlife manager, that contact information is online as well, but absolutely use us as a resource. Prior to this position, I was an administrative assistant in the Colorado Springs office. So if anything, I know how to find any information you're looking for, and I'm happy to help out there. And I did attend the meeting in Hugo 2 weeks ago, and did the same presentation. And it was a good experience. I think it helps to get our name out there. I've worked quite a bit with Tanya Fell out of the Yuma County area, and she has put together some pretty amazing projects that HPP has partnered in on. So she's a good resource as well if you want to reach out to her just to get an idea of how all this works and what you're able to accomplish with that. She, I'm sure, would be happy to help you as well.
Mariah,
Definitely.
do you mind jumping on and explaining what do you expect, or what would our participation be at that December meeting? That sounds maybe like that's a larger meeting.
Sure. So the CACD hosts an annual meeting for the next couple of years, or the last couple of years has been Colorado Springs. And it's a meeting where you can meet the 74 to 78 conservation districts in Colorado. And whether it's the district managers like myself or our board who is elected to serve the landowners in the area or in their district. El Paso County is kind of a weird situation. We have 4 different districts that serve the area. Douglas County, on the other hand, is a pretty great district where it's county line to county line. So you know you're in the Douglas County Conservation District if you're in Douglas County. El Paso County gets a little bit trickier, but the 4 districts that are representing El Paso County, as well as the other 70 in the state, all gather. Not everybody can attend, but we've got a really good representation of board members, landowners, district managers like myself, conservation techs, our NRCS partners. We've got a lot of different partners that all have a chance to be there and tell us what they do and how they do it and what they need from us. We have a chance to ask you what we need from you and maybe potential collaboration efforts.
So you're not looking for a presentation, it's more of a just have our staff available to answer questions?
Yeah, so I know at my board, they would love to hear what you guys just presented. I don't know that we knew that this was something that was going on, and this is in our own backyard. As across the state, it's happening everywhere else in everybody's backyard. So I think my board, both of my boards would like to hear this and say, hey, you know what? I didn't know you guys were doing this. I didn't know you had a resource for one of my landowners who has this issue, and they've got a fence line down, and I don't know, the elk are causing a problem, or there's injuries, or there's trespassing, or whatever it is. A resource to reach out to you guys. I've been sort of in a position where I get a phone call, and if it happens to deal with wildlife, my board suggests I reach out to you guys. I have problems getting through the local office to anybody, whether they're really busy or understaffed, I'm not sure. But to know that this program specifically is something maybe that I might keep in my back pocket or my toolkit for landowners is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's
good.
what we're here for. Go ahead. Sorry, Michael.
No, I think if Mariah, you and others that are present today can help spread the word as well. I don't know if using her PowerPoint would be useful, or just maybe the notes that you were able to take. That would definitely be helpful. So yeah, I'll intend to try to join that. Maybe Kim and I can go to that meeting and have a informational table or something to that effect.
That would be awesome.
The date specifically?
Yeah, it's December 4th. Somebody else help me out here.
December 4th through the 6th, I think. Or 4th and the 5th, and then maybe the 6th. But yeah, first week of December.
Okay. Yep. And so that might be when you can work with CACD and Kayla or I, we can get you that information. Would be a chance to maybe, if you have a table with some handouts, or a chance to meet and greet folks that can come up and shake your hand and say, hey, what do you do? what options do you have for me? And or what might be something you want to do in my community that I can bring landowners to you that have space or questions or needs. So that the annual meeting is more of a presentation opportunity or a partnership collaboration versus what I mentioned about the watershed district or watershed associations as well as the conservation districts. Those would be more of a meeting in a presentation style.
Okay.
That's what Abby Gray, we can connect you, Michael, with Abby Gray, the executive directors for CACD. And then she can have some more information and kind of get with you guys and see what that looks like. So
I like dealing with Mariah at this point, so.
no, that's great. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna stop my video now. So.
I can help make some connections. I got you.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. We might have some local staff as well, because I don't want to step on local toes there, that they know what the issues are. And so, yeah, you or Abby or whoever, let's work together on that. And yeah, Dustin, this is already a success in my mind. So how do we make this more of a success for you guys today? What other questions or comments do you guys have?
I had a question, and apologies if you had covered this, Kimberly. As far as application deadlines go, is there a hard set deadline, or is it a rolling application, or does it depend on region?
It does. It depends on region, and it depends on committee.
Okay.
So if you look at the website, it does show all of our individual committees as well as the state council. So if it doesn't fall within one of those committee boundaries, it would fall under the state council. And that's where we have those deadlines. So it is rolling. We have meetings typically quarterly for all of those committees. Each one's a little bit different, and our locations vary throughout those boundaries. Like out in Yuma County, we typically meet in Yuma and at the bank there. But we have locations all over the place that we gather, and typically lunch is provided on those, or dinner, whatever we entice people to come with food. So yeah, it just varies. So if there's any interest in project applications, we just reach out to any of us ahead of time, and we can figure out when to get that meeting scheduled. We do have a little bit of liberty with that. All of the three admins, we all run our own committee schedules. So if we need to set one up or, move one back, whatever, we have that liberty, which is very nice.
Perfect. Thank you.
And would you be able to share your screen and show how our website set up, where they would go to find their nearest, I don't know, meeting location, maybe our meeting schedule there?
Yep, I can do that. Give me just a second. So the website also provides all of our past meeting minutes, all of that information. So if you're interested to look at that, you're welcome to. We do keep all that on there. So under the About Us tab, Habitat Partnership Program, have our map. Here is where that application is located. We have created a Adobe fillable PDF. It can be a little tricky, so if you have any problems with that, absolutely let us know. All of our basic information here, and then our committee meetings. So on this page, it's going to show upcoming meetings. We have the map, any information specific to those committees, which is kind of nice. It will give you some rough guidelines on what that committee expects or is looking for as far as match, hunting, those type of things, where they typically meet, and so on. And then again, just all those committees throughout the state here. So we've tried to make this website pretty user-friendly. It's a lot of information stuck on one page. But if you have any concerns or questions on that, please reach out and we can help you with it. Looks like we have a chat question.
There is. So Ashley asked, you partner to help clean up creek areas that are overgrown with tamarisk. I would assume this would fall under habitat improvement.
We would need to make a nexus towards some type of conflict. And we've had this happen before where people say, we really need to clean up some tamarisk. But we do have guidance from our state council that is at face value is not something that we participate in. Just riparian cleanup in general. If there was some type of wildlife conflict nexus, then it would be considered, but just at face value, no. I don't want to leave on a negative note like that. What do we do? That might be easier way to answer it, I guess. We do mechanical mastication of overgrown habitat just to reduce the sterile stage of it. If animals aren't able to get what they need from habitat, where are they going to go? They're going to go to private land where they get all their needs met year round, and that's when conflict goes up. So I'm sorry, was it Ashley that asked that? Sorry if that was didn't probably make you feel happy about that. But if you've got questions about it, maybe there's a way that we can locate that nexus with wildlife conflict. And so I would urge you to work with local staff on that, or Kim and I. She says, no problem, thank you. So Penny Bishop hasn't said a word today. Penny, do you have a question? I'm going to put you on the spot.
No, I'm just gleaming all this information. Our boundaries contain 2.2 million acres. We service Montrose, Ouray, part of Gunnison, part of Delta, and most of San Miguel County. So I'm taking notes, trying to get all the information I can to go back to my board, maybe suggest some practices that we might be able to implement with you all.
Very good. I did not mention too, on the website, there is contact information for each administrative assistant. So if you're within one of those committee boundaries, it will tell you who you can reach out to for assistance. In the Northwest region, we have Marion Cole, and then in the Southwest, we have Kale Watson. Both of them are excellent and very, very helpful. So use their contact information as well if you need to. And I can provide all that to Kayla as well, just in a snap, so that you don't have to go searching for it.
That would be great, Kimberly. Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have another question as far as the applications go. Do they, like the actual applications, do they look a little bit different based from committee to committee? Or is there kind of just a broad overview of like a project proposal, an estimated budget, and just kind of like big items that the districts will need to include in those applications? If you could kind of speak towards what the actual applications look like.
Sure, yeah, and I'll share my screen on this one as well. So the application is standard throughout for each committee. There's no separate one from committee to committee. Let's see. So basically, we're looking for the overall basic information: who owns the property. We do work on some of the leases that people have, and then we want to know. We really are interested in this funding amount and where the money's coming from. We encourage people to reach out to other funding sources. We cannot be the end all be all. We do have a decent budget, but we can't fund everything. So we look to partners like NRCS, and also a lot of times local, like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Mule Deer, things like that will help. So that's really neat to see that collaboration come in. So we do ask that if you have contacted, to let us know who it was and what their answer was. Basically, we're looking for habitat information, the habitat use. And so this gears into those 4 species that we focus in on. And we want to see that those animals are using that property, or, causing damage, or whatever the case may be. But we need to see that specific focus in order to even entertain a project. So goes into the need, how this project's going to address it, basic information there again. And then we look at the project costs. We're really interested in the accomplishments of this. HPP reports out every year to show what our dollar has done. So that that dollar that we put in has, you know, fertilized X amount of acres and has turned into this amount of money because of the collaboration that HPP brings together. So this is important for us. Then if you're doing any sort of research monitoring or conservation easement, there's a supplemental portion to this that we ask that you fill out. You know, conservation easements in general are extremely expensive and can be tough to fund. So we have worked with those. It's another one that, I don't know, there has to have, those definitely have to have those criteria met in order for us to put funding into it. We can't just say, okay, well, we're going to preserve this in the event that the wildlife want to use it, or whatever the case may be. So does that help a little, Kayla?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And we just got a question from Penny, who asked, does the match have to be cash or can it be all in kind?
It can be all in kind. So a lot of times we have landowners that will utilize their labor. If they have materials on hand that they don't have to go out and purchase, there's a value to all of those things. Equipment that they use. So say you're using your 4-wheeler with your sprayer on it to do a weed project, that absolutely counts. Yes, so it can be in kind.
And it can be public or private land. I don't know if we made that clear in our presentation. I think you did.
Yeah. I did mention this too at the Yuma County meeting. HPP was really designed to bridge the gap between the landowners and CPW. So we came in to solve those issues that maybe game damage couldn't directly address. And so they put the funding into HPP so that we could be that, basically that bridge, that relationship with those landowners. So that's what we really strive to do, is reach out locally to those landowners and, hey, how can we help you? We can't help everyone, but we really do our best to, you know, curtail these and make it a positive experience. And I will add too that each committee has their discretion. So you can submit an application and, you know, it looks great, but based on the committee, if they're not in favor or they see an issue with it, it ultimately falls on them. And so that's what we utilize our committees for, their knowledge and experience, and we rely on them. So I always like to make that clear that it's not up to myself or Michael or whatever. It is ultimately up to our committees to support or not support those projects in the end. So.
Perfect. And we did have one more question from Mariah that says, what would you like from conservation districts to help your work? And that's a great question, Mariah.
I think just helping to spread the word about HPP, and, you know, leading them to one of us to reach out. It may not be a perfect or ideal situation that we can help with, but all of us have been with CPW long enough that we can help to direct. So if there's a better opportunity out there, I know, you know, like the EQIP funding with NRCS, things like that. There's programs out there that are specific to needs that we can also help landowners reach out to those contacts. Each of us has pretty direct contact with all of our local partners. The committees are made up of a BLM rep, U.S. Forest Service rep. We have a sports person, livestock growers. So we have a wide variety of people on the committee itself. And each of those people has their own connections as well. So if anything, we can be a resource. Do you want to add to that, Michael?
No, you're always more eloquent than I am, so you nailed that. Yeah. Dustin, did you get out of this what you were hoping to?
Yeah, I think so. Just to get the word out, you know, that like just what we did, you know, people not knowing what HPP is about, you know, and you said you know, use I think HPP could use the field reps too, you know, the field specialists like Kayla and myself to get that word out as well. I don't know if you guys have pamphlets, informational pamphlets or something like that we take to our conservation district meetings as we go about through the state. Garth Schaefer, also I want to give a shout out. He's not here today, but he's in the Southeast as a field specialist as well for CSCB. So it's just one of those deals where we could spread that, you know, a little bit, and with those pamphlets, those informational pamphlets or something like that, just to let conservation districts know that there's another program out there to help them do what they need to do. So
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. We can provide you that. And we also have some fencing with wildlife in mind brochures that, I don't know if that's a direct connection to what you guys would be interested in, but it does help when people are using grazing as a management tool, habitat management tool. Adequate fencing that is permeable to wildlife but contains livestock adequately, it's pretty important. So we can provide you with that as well if you're interested.
Other questions while we have Michael and Kimberly here?
Yeah, we can definitely get, we have a 1-page pamphlet, and then we also have the fencing with wildlife in mind. So I can get in touch with Kayla and get some mailing addresses or drop those off if she's local, so I could drop them off here in the Springs, no big deal, or leave them at my office. Be happy to do that.
That'd be
Was
great.
that in response to Mariah's question there? Does that help her out?
Yeah,
Okay.
she wanted, yeah, some brochures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're interested too, Mariah, I could also put you on the email list. I don't know what areas you cover directly. Are you
That'd be
only
great.
El Paso County, or are you?
So I am 2 different districts in El Paso County, but
Okay.
also work with the state board with Tanya, with the state DEA board, and can also assist and facilitate some of that partnership work.
Okay. Very good.
Are you able to drop Michael's email also in the chat there?
Yeah.
I think I have yours from the website.
Yep, I can do that right
Thanks.
Perfect. All right. One last call for questions, and while you're kind of thinking it over, I do want to give a plug for our next coffee hour. It's going to be Wednesday, September 27th at 9 a.m. And we're going to have folks from the Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety joining us. Those mining applications that go through the division are required to provide notice to local conservation districts prior to submitting an application for review. And generally, those response windows for conservation districts can be relatively short. And depending on how frequently your district reviews those, it's not always clear what the role of the district is and like what steps that you have to do. And so just for kind of that review process and the application process through the Division of Reclamation and Mining Safety. And so we're going to have folks from that division joining us to kind of walk districts through the review process and how applications are sent to districts. And they're also updating that. And so it's going to be a really great coffee hour to join in for that one. So a plug to join us on September 27th for that one. And so let's see, any more questions? Okay, with that, we will go ahead and wrap up today. Michael, Kimberly, thank you again. And I'll be sending up a follow-up email with more information. And so thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Like